coming up in this episode.
The way things have just kind of developed since even when I was coming out of school, and it's madness. It's so fast paced. You've got 18-year-olds that have got the ability to, like you say, via social channels and platforms, literally dwarf your business growth in weeks and months through opportunity. But through entrepreneurship at any age, if they can identify that and they use it, and we don't understand, it's our problem.
I mean, you learn your work ethic,
Yep.
and what you did about business through your grandfather initially, and then much of it was on your own, just doing it, right? And that, to me, that feels like a failure of our school system.
100%.
That there was someone entrepreneurial in their school, whatever school you went to, and no one picked up on that and helped make that happen sooner.
The more people invest in me and my business and my vision, I'm investing the same amount of trust and, help and support back. It works both ways, but it definitely does give you a bit of breathing space. But it only comes with time. Time's the great exposer of problems, because everything before that is just waffle and words.
The Founders Unplugged podcast, hosted by Greg McCallum. Raw, uncensored conversations with startup founders.
Look, there's very little structure to this show, I'll be honest. It's just two guys talking. But the one bit that I do like, if you don't mind indulging me, is just introduce yourself in the business to those watching and listening right now.
So specifically, I, Daryl Harris, director for my sins, apparently. And we started off quite small, man in a van style. And we've grew this business into what it is today, which is a full depot supporting multiple trade and our own installation teams, while facilitating eyes and an on-site experience that otherwise would not be available if we weren't here. So that's kind of what we bring to it and how our position sits in the market is just now. Yep.
And the business is Rapco. Why don't you explain what Rapco is and the service that you provide?
Yeah, so Rapco it's an introduction into interior wrap. That is pretty much the premise of the business. What we do as Rapco is we built the UK's first showroom where customers are free to visit and feel and experience what it is we do, how interior wrapping can really benefit a sector versus replacement. Without it, I think they would be a wee bit, I would say what it actually means, what it does, like what the service is. We've got an in-house installation team, Kitchen Rapco. That's where it all started for us. And we've been renovating kitchens exclusively for 12 years. And it's just went from strength to strength. And the more eyes that are on the sector just promotes us. So we developed that service into trade support. So we obviously had our plateau. We had X amount of guys, X amount of vans, and we could only facilitate our service in so many ways. So we decided to start supporting other trade members that do the same kind of work.
Right. Well, like individuals or other. Yeah. Okay. So people who kind of wanted to just have that additional support, or actually helping people getting into it in the first place.
It's both. So. It's a lot to delve into, so I hope you get the patience there.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
So when we first started off, it was just purely facilitating installations.
Right.
That is pretty much all we did. It was like, right, how can we renovate this kitchen at low cost, help a customer and make some money in the process. Since then, it's now developed into this monster where everybody in the sector now sees the benefit of what we do. Interior wrapping as a sector is just going from strength to strength. I've never seen a growth rate like it in business that anything that I've been involved in, other than social media and potentially TikTok. It's the only thing that I've seen the growth and people actually talking about constantly, wanting to explore constantly, looking to find out as much information as they can find out, ultimately to save themselves money. Because that is the driving force behind what we do.
Do you mean from a consumer point of view, or from like just an industry point of view in terms of like the home improvement industry, or is it both? Is the buzz kind of happening in both?
Yeah, I mean the home improvement industry as a whole, I'd say the kitchen renovation sector take up maybe about I'd say maybe 15% of that, the last analytics that we looked into, of the kitchen renovation sector, Howden's exclusively own 26% market share of that. And we're just trying to slot in somewhere in the kitchen renovation kind of service that we provide. And right now, we're probably taking, not our company specifically, but as a service, we're probably taking maybe 10% of the market already. And
wow. Okay.
It's just getting started.
That's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just let's take a step back though, for people listening that maybe still not clear what this is, because not everyone is familiar with what wrapping is, right?
Yeah.
So you've actually got examples of it behind you in your office, haven't you?
Yes.
Like,
you can see
so
wrap,
for those who are actually watching the video, you'll see an example. So it's essentially, well, you might explain it better, but my understanding is essentially using a material of a wrap that can go over the top of usually wooden materials, right? Like cabinets and things like that, to change the way they look, to change color, texture, etc., finish. So that's
should have definitely started off with the pitch. So
well, no, it's like, hey, yeah, this usually happens when we talk. So we usually get excited, and then we have to backtrack, and I do this all the time in every episode. But yeah, no, it just occurred to me that not everyone might understand what wrapping is, right?
No,
as a whole, because you get it for all kinds of stuff, don't you? Cars and all sorts of stuff. This is. Yeah, so is that a good description of it, or would you describe it better than that?
Of course, I mean, it's the ability to use our interior wrapping materials and skills to upcycle, if you like, an existing piece of furniture or fixture. So we use in situ pieces of furniture like kitchens, tables, and a commercial side we'll use like bedroom, hotel furniture, existing bar tops, and we will come in with minimal disruption and renovate that space. And you've got so much range and application potential with the actual service itself. Like you say, like if you look in the office, these are upcycled cores from our material that we've wrapped in a leather effect. We've fabricated and wrapped this panel to make it look like cornicing and profiling. The slat wall, exactly the same. The table and the desk, all wrapped. When you walk in the showroom itself, which I'm sitting in, so we've got our own office inside the showroom, so we've seen customers, general public come in, and you have to introduce that in that way. Listen, everything you see when you walk in this door is being interior wrapped. Everything you touch, every surface, worktops, splashbacks, kick plates, new doors, everything has been wrapped. And
I mean, it's a good way to showcase the product, isn't it? At the end of the day, so yeah.
It's just like how do they wrap their head around the actual concept in the first place? Well, don't
that's
worry.
a good pun. I like the pun there.
That's now getting introduced into my marketing strategy. I just heard that.
Yeah.
So
come in to wrap your head around it. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Can you? By the way, sorry, just a quick side note. Can you hear a beeping occurring every now? You can. Okay, sorry about that. That's my baby monitor. My baby monitor is losing connection every now and then, and it's beeping.
Right.
But hopefully, I can get rid of that in a minute because my wife's just doing school run. So sorry about the beeping.
That's all right. How old's it? Is it a boy or a girl?
Boy, he's just not long turned 1. So, and he's a bit ill at the moment, so we've got to keep an eye on him. He's coughing and all sorts. So bless him.
Are you sleeping, Gregory?
I'm like, I'm okay. The wife's taking care of most of it. No, and to be fair as well, he is, although he's coughing a lot, he's pretty good. He gets himself back to sleep pretty quick. So yeah, it's better than it was like, a couple of months ago where he'd just be up all night crying. But yeah, he's better now. He's got used to being sick. He's basically embraced being British. He's realised, okay, this is the way life is now. I'm British. I'm going to be sick all the fucking time. Yeah. I'm just going to have to deal with it and go back to sleep. So he's just embracing his Britishness. That's basically what it is. So yeah. But, anyway, sorry for that. So sorry if that beeps every now and then. I'll try and mute when it does happen. So we've explained that now, so people have a bit more context. So why do you think it's increasing so much? I think I have my theory as to why it's increasing popularity as a choice of renovation, but what do you think is kind of the contributing factor to this taking up?
Money. I mean, people are out with a cost of living crisis, out with COVID hitting the economy. And I mean, this is a very recent thing that would make you think that, but this has been going for 12 years. We've been doing this since 2012-13. Even in its infancy, people seen the potentially saving money. And now, because it is so well known, it's not fully mainstream as an alternative renovation method, but people definitely do have eyes on it now, and they see the potential to save money.
It's the quality of the finish as well, isn't it? I mean, compared to like just whacking a nick of paint over something, like to actually be able to get a very, very different look on top of of a pre-existing like kitchen, for example, is appealing, isn't it? Because otherwise the alternative is to rip the whole lot out, and that's
exactly
crazy expensive.
Environmentally, it's definitely got its strengths, but purely consumer based. You're a customer in the house. You've got a choice. Am I ripping out the kitchen, or am I going on holiday?
Yeah.
Right. How can you not do both? And that's pretty much, if you speak to people on a personal level, like I know I'm sitting in the house and I'm going, like, I really don't feel like spending 10 grand, 15 grand on a brand new kitchen when I can spend 80% of that, which is a proven analytic, 80% versus replacement through the experience of wrapping these kitchens and these surfaces. It's a no-brainer. And you've got the legs and the longevity and the material where it's lasting minimum 5 years. And as the sector's growing, there's more materials in the market now. And it is, don't get me wrong, there is a minefield here, the right and wrong materials to be using. But we are an advocate of it is only as good as the surface you're applying it to, the quality of the materials you're using, and the skill level of the installer. And we've tried to police that as much as we could.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this chat as well because I've been thinking about doing it ourselves actually for our kitchen. So
yeah.
I was hoping I might be able to, get some insight to know a bit more about it as well for that perspective too. But take me back a bit then. So take us all back. How did you get into this? What was your entry point into this business?
I mean, the story, the story itself came from just exhaustion and boredom and everyday work.
What was everyday work at the time?
Everyday work at the time was, I was jumping between job to job. This was going back to say 25, 26 at the time. Just finished my bout of travelling and my crazy nights out with friends and just enjoying life. And then realising that point in time came where I need to actually settle down here a wee bit, establish myself in something and start looking after the future, get myself into a career of some sort. So I had a good friend at the time that worked with Tesco. And I took a job with him. He got me a job, and it was a decent job. It was events management within Tesco, and we got into that. And don't get me wrong, it was a basic job. It was fine, but it had room for growth. And I'm the type of person where when I do something, I give it everything. When I was travelling, I'm going everywhere. When I'm going on a night out, I'm making the most of it. I'm not coming back to 5.
You're going all in. Yeah,
we're going all in.
Yeah.
So I applied the same methodology to work. And I gave it everything, and it got me nowhere. Right. It got me absolutely nowhere. Get all the hours I could do, all the enthusiasm, all the excitement, we could do this and we could do that, and nobody wanted to hear it. Everybody's pigeonholed in their own job, in their own department, and it's extinguished quick.
Yeah.
And I seen it out, and it's like, no, you just need to bear with it, make a name for yourself, and they'll see you, and they'll grow you, and they'll develop you. And 2 years I gave it. 2 years to one day I'm driving up and I seen the Tesco sign, and nothing against Tesco itself because it paid the bills. And I didn't want to do it anymore. I just turned around and went home. Just went home. Just left it at that. And the next day I sold all my stuff, and I sold everything I could, bought a van, a few tools, and advertised as a handyman. I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do something I enjoy, being creative, and I'm going to do it in my own terms. And I've only got myself to blame then. And that's where it started for. So the handyman led into home improvement, it led into facilities management, property maintenance, and as the skills grew and developed, you started to get more versed in the sectors, and you could see kind of avenues, potential growth avenues. At the time, it used to be like the click laminate flooring, used to be like the kind of the wet wall. When that was introduced, you'd be dabbling in these things. And I was friendly with a guy who was a sign writer. He was a car wrapper and a sign writer. And I was doing a bathroom installation at the time, and I was doing the wet wall installation. This woman kept asking for a very specific pattern. She wanted a silver sparkle wet wall at the time. And I was like, they don't do them. They're not on the market. Like they don't exist. I don't know. Like, I can give you this and give you that. I don't want that. Can you find me something? And it was just through conversation. I was talking to this guy, and I was like, she won't leave me alone. Look at the messages are coming through. Like, I can't get a hold of it. He's like, I've got a wrap that will do that. And that's kind of where it developed for me. I was like, so I can use that material to wrap over that material and give this customer exactly what she wants at this price. And she's super happy. And then it got me thinking. I got a few years thinking, to be honest. And I was like, what else could we do this way? We thought we invented it. It was getting done years before in France and all over the rest of the world in different ways. And then we just naturally went into kitchens. Can we change the colour of the kitchen? Played with our own. Worked fine. Don't get me wrong, it was very basic at the time. And then I thought, you know what, this has got potential for a big growth. Look at the money you just saved. You're getting people, friends and family coming down saying, oh, I love your new kitchen. So that's no new kitchen, that's a wrapped kitchen.
Right.
And that kind of, it went for there.
You got the same reaction as if it was a new installation.
Yeah.
So then how did you think to scale it from there? Was it through word of mouth that it kind of scaled, or were you quite intentionally going, okay, this is something I now want to pursue, I'm going to start telling more people about it? Or was it a bit of both?
Definitely both. Initially, my approach to the business, like I said, it wasn't I never go in half-hearted. I'm giving it everything. So even when I done the handyman stuff, it was like it was the business focus. It wasn't necessarily what I was doing. It was more, I'm Daryl. I won't let you down. I will be there on time. I will do everything you need me to do and create that security and reputation. And every time I moved into something new, I just kept the same model. So when I spotted the kind of legs in this industry, it was the same approach. So I didn't want to grow wrapping at the time. I wanted to grow the business, and it was the business that I wanted to breathe life into. And the more I did that, the more people respected the approach, and the organic growth was amazing at the time. But it was more investing in myself than investing in the concept. It was almost like I'm convincing this is a great alternative. And I think if it was just that message on its own at the time with nothing to back it up, I don't think it would have grew.
Yeah, I mean, we often talk about this in the business industry, don't we? That people buy from people at the end of the day. Like in my background of sales, especially, that's always what we talk about. It's about relationship first and foremost. Yeah, people need to understand that you're a trustworthy person, that you have a good sense of moral grounding, that you could not just that you can be trusted, but that just that you're gonna you're gonna be trusted. I mean, essentially, you're gonna do a good job, because it's just there's so many fucking cowboys out there. I mean, especially in your industry, let alone mine. It's difficult. It's one of the reasons why I offer a lot of the stuff that I do, free consultations, free sessions. It's like, see for yourself. Like I know my shit. And I'm not going to screw around. I'm not going to, and I think that's super important. It makes a lot of sense. But I mean, it's quite interesting that you kind of stumbled on it like that almost. So to that guy that you spoke to, the car, because that's what I knew about right before we met and spoke. That's I knew about that because my brother has been involved for many years, or used to run a business that was involved in car renovations and souping up cars and all that kind of stuff. So I'd known about car wrapping as a thing, which even that's fairly recent, really, isn't it? I think.
In the wrap game it's ancient, but for the everyday public to look at it and go like that, it's a great alternative to paint, and it's got a lot of beneficial applications, the same as wrapping and interior wrapping. The way I see it, and I've said this to everybody, it's like, forget wrapping as the concept now. There is room for everything. See, if you don't have to replace, is that not a benefit? If you it's a benefit.
Well, and this is the big thing that's in a really hot topic at the moment for a lot of people is upcycling, is renovating, recycling, just and the sort of idea of fixing things as well. There's a big push for the right to repair with a lot of electronics, for example. The pressure put on Apple to release the schematics of their electronics so people can fix them and all this kind of stuff. And it's a bloody good thing, because at the end of the day, why should you have to buy a new phone, every single time? If you want to fix it, you should be able to go on Google and find out how to fix the fucking thing. You shouldn't have to spend another grand, each time or send it away. And for example, I've got a soldering iron. I've taught myself how to take things apart and fix them. It's fun. It's enjoyable. And it saves a lot of money. Everyone should know how to pick up a hammer, or how to wire some lights. You know what I mean? You should know these things.
Maybe a fortune in the long run. Even just basic DIY skills is a bonus.
I don't think you can be a functioning adult, to be honest, without those skills. I don't think so. And it's surprising how many adults there are in the world that do not have even the slightest clue on just how to do the most basic things, like just using a fucking screwdriver. Like, it's terrifying. But I grew up on a building site, so I fortunately know that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So where do you think you got that from? You said like your approach is like go in 100%, all guns blazing. Where does that come from?
I mean, the drive, I could probably pinpoint it to a couple of things, but just, I don't know, well, I mean, you take the qualities and the traits for family members probably and who you're exposed to growing up. Definitely attribute that to my grandfather. The guy's work ethic was unbelievable. He was a business owner as well. It's not a lot of it's not conversations we had frequently. I was very young at the time and everything else, but it's good to watch and see what you're doing and then take a step back and go, how did you know how to do that? Or how do you feel like you were confident enough to even take that on in the first place?
Yeah.
And I must have been picking all this up in the background without even realising I'm picking it up. So I could definitely attribute that kind of drive and the confidence to go for it to him. And then the skills are just developed. I think you could teach anything. You could teach yourself to do anything in 3 months. That's the way I see it. So if you're dedicated and you want to learn it and you want to get good at it, you just need to put the time in. And that's the way I've seen it.
Repetition.
That's it. Just practice. And I have exhausted every application technique, every material that I could find at the time to develop this service. And that's what I'd say I had the edge on a lot of people, because they were just following by example, but there was no example to follow when I was doing it. So it was literally the foundation at R&D to make sure it worked, because my name was next to it and I didn't really want to cost myself too much money by revisits and repairs and redos. So it had to be right. I had to be confident. Otherwise, what was the point?
Well, and plus it would just damage your reputation in the long run. And
yes,
it's just not good. So at what point did you decide to take it to the next level and focus? Because this is the whole focus now, isn't it, of Rapco? It's, you've dropped the sort of the DIY, sort of side of things. So at what point did you decide, okay, time to rebrand, refocus, this is now what we do?
Yeah, so I mean, we've had a few milestones along the way. When we first started it, it's the proverbial we, because there was no we at the beginning. It was myself, and there was the odd guy that would help me here and there for a wage. But before it was the we, it was me, and it was what do I do? And I seen this at the beginning. I seen this within the first year. I'm like, this is the growth here. Like, this is what it could be. And now every decision I make for this point forward has to be towards that goal. Otherwise, what's the point? I could have worked for Tesco for the wage. I got my wage. It wasn't enough. What's the goal, the dream, the end result? And this is not even it, because during that process, you see yourself, you go like, oh, it could be this now, and it could be, and that is the entrepreneurial spirit that we all love and listen.
Oh yeah, exactly. And what's the next thing? What's the next thing? It's a curse, mate. It's an absolute
curse, but it's a great curse, because you've got purpose and you enjoy it. The process is enjoyable. It's maybe not always the physical action of doing the work, but it's the goal. It is that vision that only you got, and driving everybody towards it.
It's being the conductor and hearing the beautiful orchestra play.
Yes.
As a result, that's the thing, isn't it? And then it's finally like, okay, it's like we've played that symphony now. Let's play another one, because we've nailed that one.
Yeah.
So what's the point in keep on playing the same one? Let's hear a new one. Let's learn a new one. I was never for overcommitting. It was all very strategic and strategy based. It was like, right. Make sure this idea and this concept in my head of holding the line, and that's what it was like. It's a big battle. And it's right, I'm not giving up a position, so I'm not going to overextend. I'm going to deliver what I say I'm going to deliver, and I'm making sure I don't let anybody down in the process. And I'll hold that line till I've perfected it, and then I'll take a step forward, perfect it, step forward. The biggest milestone and the biggest liability that we ever took on was the premises. And that was initially, because tools are just an expense. You can save up and you can get a tool, and there's no risk there other than just an investment. But when you take on bills, that is when it gets serious.
especially with no experience in it. You're like, right, I really need to safeguard myself here. And in order to do that, you had to fine-tune the processes, fine-tune the service, just discipline yourself even more. So you weren't at risk, mitigating risk. It's just a big game of mitigating risk.
Yeah. So what was the main milestone that you achieved then to kind of make it clear that it was viable as a full-on investment? Like, was there a specific set of ones? Were they financial? Were they operational?
Yeah, I mean, we had got a lot of good targets, and again, it was identifying this at the time. I'm going, you know what, we're fully booked. You know what, we've got a great reputation here. You know what, I'm good at this.
and was it just that the vast majority of the work you had at the time was just the wrapping stuff, and you were just like, well, what's the point of me pushing this other stuff? Was it also just that sort of practical decision of just this is netting me more profit, and away, it's work that I enjoy more. Let's just sack that off, kind of thing.
Purely business, purely financial, which is the goal at the time. I did what I did at Tesco, and I didn't enjoy it, but I done it. And this, it just so happened that I enjoyed this part of it, but it was the most profitable, and it had the most room for growth.
So it ticks all the boxes, basically.
Yes, and it just was like, it was a no-brainer to me, and it was like, right, this is getting pushed. Drop everything away.
What about finding people though? Because this has always been a problem. I mean, it's a problem in every industry, it seems, right now. But I mean, especially in the trade, it's a tough one to find reliable, good quality people. I mean, hence why you were saying like your focus was to be reliable, to be trustworthy, and really push that. It's a big problem. I know from my dad having been in the trade, my brother being in the trade, having friends in the trade of all kinds, plasterers, leckies, plumbers, you name it. They cannot find reliable people to bring them on board because the good ones run their own business.
Yeah.
So, like, so how did you? Was it a problem with this too, or is the barrier of entry to this certain skill a bit lower, or what is it like? How were you able to overcome that? Have you been able to overcome that?
I'll fry your brain with this stuff, honestly.
Do it.
I obsess about this stuff.
Yeah.
I will sit there and I will pick that one part, and I will find out exactly how somebody goes about vetting a candidate for employment, to what they should be looking for, to the indicators, and how to actually structure the advert that gets that person to apply in the first place. That is what and I've still not mastered it.
It's an ongoing process.
Yes, and it comes down to people. I mean, there's so much literature on that. There's so much templates available to help you and assist you. But until you identify your own needs and goals, you can't apply for staff and share that kind of outlook and vision. You need to first, you need to know what you need, point blank and easy to translate to that person. And if they tick that box, then you're good. But that's just the start. There's so many things at play that interfere with that process. Somebody's work commitment, you know what I mean? Like, somebody's commitment, is he a grafter? Is he no a grafter? He might share the vision, but has he got it in him to see it out? Is he going to be reliable? Can he be developed? Is he a one-trick pony? It's all these things come into play. And I've went through, seriously, probably 20. I would call them apprenticeships, even though on paper it is not an apprenticeship that I'm doing with somebody, but they're applying for a skill set that they would never get without me introducing them to this in the first place.
Right.
And the time being wasted on the wrong people. It takes its toll.
But I suppose you don't know who the right people are until you've seen enough of the wrong ones too, right? So it's all a part of the learning experience. But this is a problem across the board, but especially from trying to go from that sort of self-employed sole trader to a company where you've got staff. It's really tricky, because ultimately you need to be busy enough to warrant the costs. But if you're so busy, you can't train them, you can't oversee them, and so there's almost this time where you need to time it so that you get busy enough that you've got some money in the bank, so you can kind of then bring the workload down to that. You know what I mean? It's this juggling act that I've never seen anyone really be able to fully wrap their head around.
No.
And that pun again. And I just feel sorry for anyone in this trade trying to, or any business, myself included. Like, I'm quite fortunate. I've got a small team and I work with a lot of freelancers. But there's going to be a point where I'm going to be bringing people on full time, probably this year, or maybe part time. And it's the same problem. It's like, I'm so busy, I need the help, but I'm too busy to train you. You know, so
Yeah.
you know, how did you tackle that? Did you? I mean, you said a lot that a lot of it seemed to be around operational. Was it the case that you were just getting almost a playbook in place, like an onboarding process in place, so that it was just people could just consume like reading materials or something, do homework? Like how were you going about it?
I mean, I was just literally throwing everybody in at the deep end at the beginning.
Okay.
I had work to do, like you say. It's so hard
So
to
what did you
split
just
your time.
say? Come with me, watch everything, learn everything.
Pretty much what any tradesman will do. He'll take on an apprentice, he'll take on a labourer, and he'll bring him out and he'll say, how long is it going to take you to help me do this?
Right.
And I would start with one task at a time. And by the fourth or fifth person, I was absolutely scunnered with it, because you're getting all the roadblocks in between, the late starts, the not turning up, the not working fast enough, maybe not interested. It's like you have all these, but it's with the experience, you're quicker to weed them out and find the right candidate. But that, I mean, that was purely from an installation point of view. When you actually do find that candidate that's reliable enough, he's interested enough, and he's looking to grow and develop himself, that's one. But say it takes you 2 years to find that one, and then you're on to the next. I can't lie, I've got a great team. I have got a fantastic team. I've led with example from the beginning. I am not afraid to get my hands dirty, and that has definitely trickled down. But it's still not a proven method. Especially if we've grew into an actual business and organisation. It's not just about doing the work now. It's about, like, have we got the vision together? Are we growing it still? Are we doing this to keep the revenue coming in, to stay here? It's like, it's trying to find people that now share the vision for growth.
Right.
And that is another difficult learning curve that I've not really been exposed to before. But
and it's one that, as you can imagine, in my line of work, I talk to people about a lot, you know, about sort of, you know, what we would call in the sort of tech ecosystem, startup ecosystem, you know, the scaling period, right? That usually following a big investment round, you know, Series A, Series B investment, and that's the period where everyone struggles with this. And as an advisor, I help a lot of businesses around that stage for how can you look at everything you've done wrong, everything you've done right, and go, right, how can we replicate and scale the things we've done wrong, and how can we protect against the thing that the things we did right, and how can we protect against the thing we did wrong? And it's difficult, and it's really, especially the main reason why I think advisors like me are even in work in that way is because it's basically impossible, I think, to see the forest for the trees when you've been in it from the start, and having that fresh pair of eyes looking in at it can sometimes sort of help with that, and kind of just go, well, no, here's some clarity. Like, actually, like, you know, one thing that springs to mind, for example, when talking about this is, I know for a fact there are a lot of people like you were those years ago, working as a sole trader, you know, trying to build their own DIY handyman home improvement business, who probably want an out like this. Right. And they're probably passionate about it. They're probably got a good business, and they're entrepreneurial themselves. And if you said to them, there's an opportunity for this, they'd probably love it. Like they'd probably jump on that. And you know that because they've got that entrepreneurial spirit, you'd probably be pretty comfortable with the fact that they're going to buy into this wider vision and want to push and throw in their own ideas and succeed and all that kind of stuff too. Like is that something that you've already kind of, I'd assume, already explored with and
of course. I mean, any kind of possibility of monetizing a business is or a niche or an opportunity is going to be at the forefront of anybody's with an entrepreneurial mind. So we did branch out into the training programs. So not only do we support the guys that are already in the sector with material sales and fabrication and advice, and a showroom that people can use, we also train them now. So, I mean, we had a cracking candidate not too long ago. This was just before Christmas as well. When we last spoke, and my head was like mush. We had a guy come over from Canada. He had seen us on the socials. He's like, he loves what we do. He loved the business model. He needed trained because he had no prior experience in wrapping, but he was a grafter. He had his own businesses before, and he's seen the potential in it. So he wasn't actually over just to learn how to do and run the service. He wanted to know how to build the business. And that became more like a 1 week intensive mentorship, where we would show him how to build it and grow it and ultimately be successful in his area.
So is that an established arm of what you do, or was this just a kind of a one-off?
It was a one-off with that kind of training program, but we've got the Rapco Pro Training Hub now, where we'll bring everybody up and we'll actually show them the application methods that are used, talk them through the pitfalls of how to set up and everything else, and try and establish them. And it was all for the same premise. We can't facilitate the UK. It would be arrogant to think that we could right now. The growth is, we've still got a year or two to go. We're definitely leaps and bounds ahead of anybody else in our sector, but we've got a long way to go. So if we can't get to you, I would rather people were protecting the sector. I'd rather they were out there armed with the correct knowledge, that using the right materials, and they've got a support network that they can use to keep the name healthy as a renovation alternative. And that is what I find a lot of people miss, especially when they're out looking to make some money for themselves, which is understandable. That comes first, but I want the legs in the sector. I wanted to be here for the next 20 years, and I need to keep the reputation good, and I need everybody else to do that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, the sort of logical connections that I'm making there are ones that I'm pretty sure you have too, which is like, franchise. And academy, which you kind of delved in, which is adjacent to that, I guess, which is which could end up being franchising. But the academy aspect, similar to this guy from Canada that you have, where you're not just showing that, but you're also showing this is how you can run a business. And there seems to be so much potential for what you're doing. Have you looked into, or have you maybe even delved into any kind of external funding for the business, or you preferring to sort of bootstrap and purely focus on organic growth?
I mean, we are self-funded. I can definitely, not that it's a super achievement, but it means something to me. Never took a business loan, never had to take a business loan. Everything was reinvested back in the company, is where I found a lot of people failed. But that came from my grandfather's ethos: is if you can't pay for it, don't buy it, and grow up within your means. But we're now at a level that I'd say has probably superseded a lot of people in my circles. Family, friends, or whatever, you're now looking to the future, and without funding and growth, how can you succeed? Especially when the competition it'll be fierce to get there. But aye, definitely.
So all options are on the table, basically.
Everything's on the table.
Yeah. It's exciting, man. It's a really exciting period. This is the kind of stuff this is why I love having these conversations. It's I get excited on other people's behalf. You know what I mean? Like I genuinely do. I really get because I can see passion from other people, and it makes me really excited. So I mean this issue around finding people then, because this is something, like I said, that is a problem across the board, right? It's not just in your industry. It seems to be every industry. What are some of the things that you've tried that have worked with that then? Because you said you've been playing around all kinds of stuff and that you get really into it. But I'm curious to know if there's some stuff there that maybe we can take away from that, people listening as well, that could be useful best practices potentially to help with that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, without being too crude or to the point with it, you can
be as crude and to the point as you like. I mean, that's basically how I built my brand, right? I'm known as the no bullshit advisor for a reason. So be as crude and to the point as you like. No, if it's just as simple as just no arseholes, then that's good enough.
It's as simple as, I mean, I don't put in too many words, but that's exactly what it is. It's like, do not waste my time. I hate time, and I mean, there's a flurry of them. There is a market out there that I feel like are just dedicated to wasting your time. I don't know why they just keep hitting my doorstep, but
I think that's part of a wider problem, that there's so much of the world that are lost and not sure what they want to do with their lives. Just like you were, going back at the beginning when you're talking about sort of going from job to job. Not really sure what to do. I mean, we all go through that period in our lives, and it seems like there's more people like that than ever that just don't really know what it is that they want to do, or they have grand ambitions, but and dreams, but they've got no idea how to achieve them. And because we're not equipping people properly in my opinion, with the tools to allow them to go out there and feel confident to achieve their goals. And I think that's partly the problem. So I can sympathize with them, but from our perspective, it's a pain in the ass.
Yes. because investment comes for your side, the passion comes for your side, and it is so demoralising and demotivating to continue the same process for the same outcome. And when you find that right person, and that's how the team. We've got a tight knit team. There's one guy in particular that we took on. He had no prior experience, but his work ethic was there. Everything's teachable, but you can't teach passion. You can't teach a work ethic, and that's what I've probably attributed the growth of the teams on, is pinpointing that itself. If I find somebody like that that's just super keen, super interested, and just passionate, I can teach them anything because they're willing to learn. You know what I mean? You can teach good practice, you can teach timekeeping, you can teach, you know what I mean, a couple of wee things, and a wee bit of directional advice, because everybody comes with their own circumstances. Nothing's simple. But you need the right attitude. It's the ABC model, the attitude, behaviour and capability. And see when you strip everything right back down, that's where it starts. You cannot build unless they've got every single one of the ABC. You know.
So how did you find the transition from, essentially never running a team of your own business before, right? Your own employees, things like that, to then suddenly being thrust in that? Because from what I understand it, although there was a many year build up into getting to the to this idea and so on, once it was taking off, I remember from our first conversation, it took off pretty quick, right?
Super quick, yeah.
Right. So how did you manage that transition, and especially when it comes to like your own skill set? Because you strike me as someone who's quite self-aware, right? And so and quite reflective. So you're probably, I'm assuming, looking at yourself going, right, okay, there are some skills I might need to focus on improving in order to be the best manager, the best leader, etc. So how did you approach that?
I'll tell you right off the bat, management's not my strong suit.
Right.
Being a manager is just not me. If
you see, the best managers tend to be the ones that say that, I find. Because everyone else they manage usually disagrees with that. They're like, no, he's brilliant. Because, but anyway.
Sorry. I look after my guys. I look after everybody. I do my best to look after everybody on a personal level and career as well. Like I do my best. Sometimes it's not always possible, and sometimes you need to be the bad guy. I don't mind being the bad guy. I don't mind telling somebody the truth, as long as I'm right to do so. Never wanted to be a boss, Gregory. Never ever wanted to be the leader of people. It was never about that. It was growing a successful business. It was seeing opportunity where nobody else did and growing it to be a profitable business. It was never
they're two sides of the same coin, though.
Yeah, that's true. It breeds it breeds staff, it breeds management, it breeds all the problems that come alongside it. I've tried my best to put things in place where I didn't really need to be involved in that too much. Like I would outsource HR, I would outsource accounts, I would outsource all the things that would pose problems. But no, it's not been easy. It has not been easy, but I feel like I win the respect of my team just because I'm not feared to get my hands dirty. I'm there with them. If a guy's 10 hours over his time for the week, I can guarantee I've done 20. And it's just like, if I'm here with you, pick up the phone anytime you need me, I'm here. It's dependable. And that's how I've had guys in the team that have left and come back. I've got guys in the team that have left for a period of time, a year or two, and come back. So that tells you I can't be that bad. But
there you go. See, that's what I mean. Like, you saying you're not that good a boss. You basically described all the qualities I think that are needed to be an amazing boss. But the one of them is probably humility. So that makes sense. You're not going to say, "Oh yeah, I'm fucking brilliant." that wouldn't be that would be a red flag. But so are you saying then most of it you just kind of you've really just taken the same approach you always have, or did you intentionally go out of your way to kind of try and brush up on anything or focus on any particular, like, do you know what I mean? Were you kind of going out there to try and go, okay, this is going to be the next stage of business, I'm going to need to go and learn about this or learn about that?
Yes, every time. No matter what level I hit, it would be if it was marketing, management to a degree, finance and accounts, processes, machinery, infrastructure, that way, like every single avenue. I wouldn't go into it blind, and I wouldn't blindly give somebody ownership of that department or task without at least understanding a part of it. not that I'm a fully distrusting person, but I'm not a trusting person. I'm the type that I'll go, do you know what, if it's proven, then okay, I believe what I see, but I'm not taking somebody's word without evidence.
Which I think is a pretty reasonable thing to do as an entrepreneur in general, right? If you could, because I mean, your entire business is predicated on the idea that people can do what they say they can do. So, I mean, you're not going to just take anyone's word for it. You need to say, okay, well, show me, and then I'll put my trust in you. I think that's a very reasonable thing. Like,
I think that's gave me some breathing room across the way, because as times went on, even in the last 5 years, say, it's went from strength to strength, but it's went to strength because of people. The more people invest in me and my business and my vision, I'm investing the same amount of trust and, help and support back. It works both ways, but it definitely does give you a bit of breathing space, but it only comes with time. Time's the great exposer of problems, because everything before that is just waffle and words. Okay, you're a worker. Let's talk again in 6 months. Okay, you do want to develop yourself. We'll talk again in a year, and you're going to do this, this, and this. Then I'll give you this back, but let's wait and see. And it's that's what I've found. Other than that, it's just a lot of people come in and see within 3 months they've showed you, and and it's disheartening again, because it's time that's gone, and almost you feel guilty yourself, or you feel a bit not fully stupid, but you're like, how did you get past the guard? How did I let you in again? How do I vet this for the next time? But
I think it's an inevitability to some extent. I mean, like, as you can imagine, this conversation comes up a lot in what I do and with the people that I speak with on a daily basis. And
if you are enjoying this episode and want to support the show, please like and subscribe with notifications turned on.
It is, I think, just an inevitable part of what we do. It's part of the casino that we operate in, right? We're constantly mitigating risk, like you said. That's our job, is to try and to de-risk as many different scenarios as possible. And whenever you're involved in any business that involves people, whether that's from a customer or employee perspective, which is every business, then that's just a constant factor. And like you said, I think all you can do is just try and learn as many lessons as possible, but just accept the fact that it's always going to be there as a problem that needs solving. It's not going to go away, right? As much as you can put processes in place and so on, it's just there. I mean, quite often I work with business owners and founders who are looking at the scaling, like I said, and the way I always tell them to approach it from a financial perspective is usually it's a salesperson is the first person they want to hire, right? I mean, that makes sense, right? They've got the product, they've got it to a point where they know people want it, it's doing well, but they're stretched. They can't sell anymore. They're the CEO. They're fully stretched. They need to focus on being a CEO. They can't go out and can keep selling. So the way I always explain to them is, okay, well, what's a regular salesperson's salary? Let's say it's 35K for software sales, right? For a year. You need to have 35K that you can just literally throw in the bin. If you don't have 35K that you are willing to lose, you are not ready to hire a salesperson. Because of the fact is that it will take 3 months it will probably take a couple of months to find them, do the interviews, find the person you want, probably 3 to 4 months. So that's that first part of that time being wasted and gone. But then when you do even hire someone, that's 3 to 6 months ramp up time before you even see any tangible results and return on your initial investment of the time spent and and then it might not work for a number of different reasons. They could get sick, they could get a better offer, they could be offered their old job back with a pay rise, they could find out they don't like it, you could find out you can't stand each other, a number of different things could happen, and then you'd have to do that process all over again. So the maximum is 12, the minimum is 12 months where none of it works. So that's been my golden rule, and I think that makes people think a bit differently then about, okay, well then what can I do to make sure I have that money that can be pissed away from a business safeguarding point of view, and then B, how do I get to that point, right? How do I actually get to that point so that it's a viable option? It changes things. But it's not always that simple, obviously.
Well, I mean, people are quite happy to dive in. I mean, the first thing you find people, I mean, we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff as well. Like, you've got part of your own wee groups like yourself, and like you talk amongst your own peers and stuff, and you're like, oh, what's your experiences? Who's asking you this? And you go back to the fun side, and it's like, when you're setting up, it is all fun, but you don't realise it. and you're willing to go and put whatever you want in at the time, and you put all your faith in these people, but ultimately they're just drainers. And that's what it is, and that's what most businesses suffer for. It's just time wasters, people that will sink your vision. And what did you do that was wrong? Invest and provide opportunity. You know,
and just trust the wrong people.
That's
mean, and that's the thing. I mean, people are can be sometimes very persuasive and good at selling themselves. Like that's the problem. Like
especially a sales role.
Right. And you know, it's all the more difficult for that exact reason, hiring salespeople, because of it's traditionally very tricky, and people get fucked over a lot because a really good salesperson. Someone could be very good at selling themselves, but really bad at selling anything else, right? Yeah. and vice versa. So some really great salespeople can be awful at selling themselves. In fact, that's usually a pretty common trait I've found. Yep. Is that people who are worse at selling themselves are usually brilliant at selling products because they're great at selling concepts of things, but they can't see themselves as a concept. They can't pull themselves apart and say, well, this is a value proposition of me. This is why I would be a benefit. Like they can't do that. It's too abstract for them. Yeah. But if you give them a product or a service, they'd sell it to anyone. So it's
friends. Yeah. But it's like you say, it's not just the everyday pitfalls of hiring and vetting and everything else. What do you do? And this is a personal experience that I'll tell you. I wasn't even going to get into anything like specifically, right? But it's super relevant. And if it helps the next person, then that is what they want to hear. So what do you do when it's not just a simple process of hiring and vetting these people? What do you do when you come across somebody that you have no idea has got an ulterior motive? What do you do then? So in my recent experience, I had somebody come in the last year for a specific role, and on paper, fully qualified, fully committed. The pitch lined up with my own vision, and the guy was a prime candidate. You take him on, and all that happened, it was just a siphon of information through a period of 6 months, and disappeared, and started the same thing himself, with the same information, the same vision, and just literally tried to replicate it.
That's fucking I mean, what can you do about that? I mean, other than just making sure your contract is as tight as possible. But I mean, and this happens a lot.
You can only mitigate it for 6 months, which was put in place because obviously, this is a learning curve as well. But it was tight. 6 months non-compete, all the different agreements that you come up with. But the 6 months passes quick.
Do you know what's interesting? I've had this conversation many times before, and I think I've even said it on the show a couple of times. When I used to work with Booksy, which is the hair health and beauty app, many years ago when it first kind of launched in the UK, as part of that, I was working with a lot of barbers, hairdressers, nail technicians, like hair and beauty specialists, basically. And one of the big problems that always plagued that industry and still does is kind of what you're talking about. That someone would come in, maybe not with the idea of doing this, but they would come in as an apprentice, learn how to cut hair, for example, and a barber would show them and they'd get really fucking good. And then a couple of years later, they'd leave and open up their own shop.
Yeah.
And it would keep happening. And it's a big point of contention in the industry, especially with barbers, where I would go to barber shows and there'd be people fighting, like literally fist fighting outside in the car park because of long-term feuds, usually because of an apprentice that then, became a good mate and then decided to leave and open a rival shop just down the road. And this was like, territory wars kind of thing. And it happens in all these businesses, beauty, salons, you name it. And there was this one guy that we worked with who was actually ambassador for the product, a very, very internationally well-known barber, cuts like celebrity hair and all that. And he had a really interesting position on this. He turned around a few years into running his business, recognized this was happening to him, and decided to do something about it. He set up an academy. He was like, and the academy, similar to what you were saying about this guy from Canada, was like the ethos of it wasn't just to train people to know how to do it. It was to train them so that they could go off and open their own business.
Yeah.
And he would just take a percentage of it.
Yeah.
And he would say, I'm going to train you to work in my shop, and I want you to eventually leave. I want that to happen and I want you to tell all your mates that that's how I do things too. So I've got an influx of people who have that ambition. So I'm going to have the best of the best. And if you decide to go off, I'll own a little piece of the pie. I will stay on being your mentor. But guess what happened? Less people did it.
Yeah.
Because he was able to tell them all the truth of what's actually involved in running the business from day one, open and honestly. And once they looked at that and they saw, they were like, do you know what? Actually, I think I'm good.
That's it's a good approach. It is
Right?
a really good approach.
Because they were like, okay, here it is. This is what it will take for you to make a business successful. And I will help you to do it if you really want. But it's going to be fucking hard.
Yes.
It's like, but I'll do it if you want to. And for a lot of people, that was just like, okay, that level of honesty is actually really refreshing. It's great that I've got the opportunity. Some took it. Fewer actually did.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, that's fucking genius. Because I thought he's you know, you're not fighting fire with fire. You're fighting fire with water in that situation. Yeah. It's just like, that's the sensible approach. Maybe that's what needs to happen more in this industry too, or in industries as a whole.
Any industry,
every industry. It's just like, it's like, embrace it. If this is what people are going to naturally, right? You can't change human behavior. So if that's what people are going to do, embrace it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, then we'll help you get there. I'll be your fucking ally to get there. But I'm going to make sure you're fully equipped to do it. It's similar to what you said about safeguarding the industry that you're in.
Yeah.
You know, saying, well, at the very least, what I can do is I can make sure that there's a standard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's we've
done it a few times. That's exactly what you're talking about. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's happened on a lot smaller scale than the guy I was talking about there. When it comes to like guys providing the service and stuff like that, we found that out pretty quick. You would train a guy, he wouldn't do what he needed to do for you, but he popped up 3 months later doing it for himself, no problem.
Right.
So you're like,
right,
that happens, right? So how you combat that? We did the trade support. So I come down and we kind of mitigate the loss, and plus we get a wee piece of the pie as well. But more importantly, we're protecting the sector, because if the guy was left his own devices, he might make a decision that was harmful to our business.
Right.
So we mitigate it for that side. I completely agree with that guy's mythology there. And when they do see the journey that's ahead of them, I mean, they're definitely put off.
Or they can have your support, like, and that's a good way to do it too. Yeah, it's like ongoing support, which in of itself is a business opportunity. You can turn that into another revenue opportunity for the business to offer mentorship and ongoing support and stuff like that. So it's a win-win for everyone. I think it's a great idea. But it makes that, what you said about that bloke, even more frustrating, because by the sounds of it, he could have just been upfront with you at the beginning and said, "This is what I'm planning on doing. Can you help me?" And you probably would have said yes.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I mean,
that's the frustrating thing about it.
I know. I mean, the model that we've built just now, and to be honest, it's still a trial period. I mean, we've been trying this for just over a year. On the most recent version of what we're offering as a service to these trade guys. So we built, like I said, the UK's only showroom for interior wrapping, and we let this. It's an open door policy, so we support all the trade guys in the central belt. Up here, they're free to send their customers down. We don't take any money for it. We're just bringing eyes to the sector. It's not really as successful as you think helping people. You get no acknowledgement for it. You get no thanks for it. You're putting all the bills. You've got all the experience and knowledge that these guys, when they boarded, had none of. And you go like, it's your turn now.
But I mean, that's not the point of altruism, though, is it? Because for true altruism, you do it for the sake of doing it.
Yes,
it's like, you know, and that's the point. If it does help, great.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be, even if it is something that is quantifiable or calculable.
Yeah.
The mere action of sitting down trying to calculate it suddenly makes it all redundant in a way, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like giving to charity and then gloating about it on social media. It's like you've cancelled it out.
That's that. So, and again, there's no guise altruism there at all. This is a business. I am trying to monetize our position, and by supporting the trade sector and the trade network, you're looking for them to buy materials and promote the business, which in turn brings eyes to new guys that could do the exact same thing, do the training, do the business. But the whole point was trying to mitigate their costs. It's like, I've already done it. Here it's here at your disposal. How do we both benefit? And you make that clear. And it still isn't enough. And that's the thing. I feel like that's a learning curve as well, as people and their attitudes towards competition is a big learning curve here. But
I mean, that's almost something you might want to like include in your training course, is like the attitude towards competition, like, and just just fucking relax, just focus on what you're doing. Like, I mean, that's all it comes down to. Like,
and that is my combat against the experience that I just went through there with obviously the guy taking what he shouldn't have took and trying to do what he shouldn't be trying to do with information that he would never have had if he hadn't been in with us. Is you can't outwork like dedication. You can't buy your way into it. And I just go back to the very beginning. It's like, I'm going to be the best. My reputation's still going to be on point. I'm not stopping. All this is ticked.
Yeah.
If you can do that, then you've got a chance. Just because you've got the knowledge doesn't mean you say you can compete.
Right.
You can't compete with somebody. You can't. I don't know.
Well, no,
I work ethic.
Yeah, I agree. And like, if someone's starting their business on a dishonest action like that, that probably speaks a lot about the way that they approach things in general. I mean, who knows, right? But probably.
Yeah.
So then you could probably bet a pretty significant amount of money that's going to show in other areas of the business, which will eventually show to customers. So reputation's affected by that. If you're going back to what you said about the way you started the business and your approach, like that's hugely important. I think over time, those things get exposed, right? Like even what you're saying about staff over time. So, that person might be moderately successful for 6 or 12 months, but eventually it will start creeping. The bad reviews will start coming in. He won't be able to work with other people. He won't be able to scale his business. What goes around comes around to an extent. But on the flip side of that, he might have just made one stupid mistake, learn from it, and turn it around. And if he does end up being successful, fair enough. More power to him. But you still have your piece of the pie. So it doesn't really matter, like in the grand scheme of things. Like, that's
the point. When you go full circle, that's the point. It's like you say with the awareness, right? And it's experience that will teach you that. Like, everybody thinks they know until they don't, until they experience it. And you do go through the 5 steps of grief, or whatever you want to call it, in your mind. You go right
until you finally get to, it doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because you're who you are. You're doing what you do, and it is what it is. Like, you parted ways at that point, but what happens after that is up to you. And it's like, it's almost just when you get to the exception stage, it's a weight off your mind. It's like, it happened, right? Okay. And I find the team, they dwell on it a lot more than I do. And it's like, right, so maybe breed a bit of competition, maybe a bit of status, or whatever it is you want to call it, or like all these different accolades that go along with being a competitor. And it's like, it's not fair. It happened like this. It was off of our hard work. It is what it is.
The world isn't fair.
No, it's not fair. But
no one ever promised anything would be fair in life. Do you know what I mean?
Keep the stamina, keep the head, keep the vision, and just keep plodding along and build it. Just, if we got a plan, then put everything else out your head.
Right.
Keep the plan.
And it's interesting you mentioned there about sort of the competitive nature of people, as a thing. Like, I thought for the longest part of my career, especially leading sales team, that the competitiveness of someone was a really important part of being successful in business. And I only really realized, I would say in the last 3 or 4 years, that yes, but that has to be focused to yourself.
Yes.
That person that you're looking to compete with needs to be you. It shouldn't be anyone else. Shouldn't be really even with the people within your team, unless it's to some sort of like banter level only, like, but not really meaning it. And it certainly shouldn't be to direct competitors in your business, like, because it just doesn't matter. If anything, you need to have competitors in your business to keep you on your toes, keep you innovating. That's really important.
Yes.
But that's really the best way to view that. I think that competitiveness is like, when you're sitting down and trying to get everyone riled up, it's easy to just go, right, guys, that company over there did these numbers. Today, we're going to do these numbers. That's a low-hanging fruit way.
It's limiting.
It is so limiting. Instead, it's like, yesterday, we did these numbers. Today, we're going to beat them. We're going to beat ourselves. Like, that's more tangible. Like, that's more realistic. It's like, how are you going to beat another company you have no control over? You can't, but you can beat yourself. You can be 1% better than you were yesterday. Like, you have to.
I totally adopt that ethos, Gregory, 100%. That's how I pitch it. That we're not in competition with anybody. Nobody at all. And
Only
we're
if someone's-
market, yeah, we are market leaders, but how are we market leaders? Because we did believe in ourselves, we had a vision, and we grew it ourselves, and everybody was super enthusiastic and developing all these new strategies and ideas, and we all worked together to do it. It wasn't because somebody did it first or because somebody we were competing against to get there first. It came from a place of passion. And as long as you continue that concept, then we've no reason to think that it won't be successful again and keep going and building up. So no, I totally agree with that. But it only comes after the acceptance.
Right. And plus it's also a dangerous trap, isn't it? Because when things are going well, people will obviously give themselves the credit. And when things are going bad, they'll blame external forces. And it's like, that's the trap. Yeah. Because actually, what you should, in some ways, be doing is the other way around. It's like, we did well. Okay, well, we can apply that to ourselves. It's because of the amount of work we put into. We should pat ourselves on the back. Not get fucking complacent about it though, because of when things go wrong, that's on us too. And it's just so easy to blame external forces. Like, oh, well, our competitors put out a new ad campaign, and so they've eaten up. It's like, well, we should have known about that. We should have prepared for that. We should have had a plan B. We should have done something about it. What's our plan? How can we do something about it? We didn't react. Like, that's on us. That's our fault. Like, you know what I mean? The buck has to stop somewhere.
100%.
But it feels like it's very...
I mean, competition is a big part of business growth, and you do your SWOT analysis, and you'll take the pros and the cons for other people that are doing similar work, or even moguls and people that you would look up to and aspire to be like in business and people themselves. And you would go, right, how do we get there? It's not, right, we have to do what they're doing. It's like, right, no, like, look at that. We can take some pros and cons for the situations. And that's how I preach it. It is frustrating to most people. I try to keep a calm head. I am non-reactive. It has no bearing on me. You're not going to change my mood. I've got my plan, and we're all going to do what works.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it right away, then you need to take a wee bit of time to yourself and work out why that doesn't sit right with you.
I also don't really ever trust a business if I'm going to enter into some sort of relationship with them. Either because I'm going to buy their products or service or whatever. I never really trust a business that badmouths the competition. I always find that to be a massive red flag. Yeah. Like, if I mention to them, like, oh, well, I'm thinking of going with these guys or these guys, what would you say about it? If their response is, negative, that's concerning. Because if it should be, in my view, and this is definitely coming from my sales background too, and in being in a lot of these situations over the years, when someone badmouth the competition in order to make themselves look good, that's a very, very easy way of trying to make yourself look good. It's the lowest form of trying to do that. Instead of being able to hang on how good you are, like what the benefits of you are, that should outshine any kind of negative thing. You don't need to shit on someone else in order to raise yourself up. It's kind of my point overall. Otherwise it means there's probably no substance to what you're offering, or at least you don't really understand what the substance is, which is even sometimes worse, right? Actually, because you might be really good, but you don't understand why, and there's nothing worse than that, in my view. But I don't know. That's just me. Don't know if you
agree. I totally agree. No, it's never been the model. Like I said, it just comes for, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing what we believe is a good, like, and carrying out a proper service? Just all the things that go with it, and that's what built the reputation. That's why I'm not changing the model.
But it's funny though, this actually bridges very nicely, it segues very nicely into what I also wanted to talk about, and you touched on it too, which was your presence online. So you've embraced TikTok quite a lot, and I know I follow you on TikTok, and you're relentless with content. And the reason why there's a good segue here is because one thing I've noticed on trade TikTok, if I think that's what it's called, like, of which there's loads. Like, I follow loads of accounts, plasterers, electricians, and all that. Everyone in the comments has something to say. Like, everyone, like, you're doing it wrong. It's like someone could literally just be putting a plug socket into a wall, and thousands upon thousands of people will say he did it wrong somehow. And I'm just like, how can there be this many ways of doing one simple fucking thing? Like, do you find that you get the same level of stuff on there, or is it because it's still a fairly unknown, well, not unknown, but like, not as widely kind of known trade? That most people are more in awe of it as opposed to like throwing their opinion.
No, true. I mean, specifically the socials. I mean, you have to look at how that kind of came about in the first place. Like, I don't know what it is in your sectors, but specifically mine, that was an unknown. We went down. It's all about presence and your pitch at the time, publicly. It's like we presented ourselves as a professional company. It was very standardized. It was like, show an image of what you do and post it, right? Or you would put the flyers out, you would show up your business cards, and that's kind of developed and how you just manifested into this bombardment of social content. But that's what it started. It was like, promote yourself. How are you doing it? And that is where we're at now. And now you're opening yourself up to 1 million trolls a day. You know what I mean? It's like,
which is fucking brilliant for the algorithm. So
it's
great.
I mean, don't even know it. Yeah. It's just all marketing strategy and stuff like that. I mean, we like to have a presence on everything, and just be there. But I have never pushed it, and I've never used dirty marketing tricks or whatever else. And again, you'll know yourself. You're looking at you see my face nowhere. I'm not a personal profile. I never had to be. The work speaks for itself. No. I never had to go out and shout about it. The work's shouting about it. The reputation shouting about it. My customers are shouting about it. I've never had to go and convince somebody to take it. And you see a lot of that as well. And it's normally the loudest person in the room is the weakest person in the room. And you see that. But there's a market share for everybody. But TikTok is lawless. TikTok is lawless, and it's a necessary evil. It is another lead gen. It is another platform to promote your skills and your service. I would recommend it for anybody that is providing any sort of service.
Because the organic reach on TikTok is phenomenal compared to other platforms.
It's
way beyond Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, stuff like that. It's very, very good.
And there is no science to it, Gregory. I mean, a lot of people, like I said, with the hiring staff, when it came to the social platforms, I tried to make myself an expert. As much as I could. I'm looking into it, I'm reading about it, I'm talking to professionals, I've got consultants on board talking about marketing strategies and everything else, and every one of them are clueless. They've all got a different version, and not one of them's right.
There's only one piece of advice, and maybe I might be the first advisor that you speak to that's on the money with this. I don't know. I think I am. Just do it.
Do it, exactly.
Just do it. There is no right and wrong.
Nope.
Just do it. And you hit the nail on the head. Show them what you do.
Yes.
That's it. That's all that fucking matters. Because you can sit there for days getting paralyzed by, have I got the right lighting? Do I have the right camera? Have I written a script? How many times should I post a day? What's the best time to post a day? What about hashtags? What about this? What about that? It doesn't matter. Just get your fucking phone out. Everyone's got one of these in their pocket. Get it out, record it, post it. Definitely. It's either going to be shit or it's going to be great. But either way, you'll learn something. And just keep doing it and you'll get better. That's it. That's all there is to it. And I would generally apply that rule with pretty much anything that you want to do in life, especially in business. You're going to be shit when you first started doing it, but do it now. You know what I mean?
Just do it, 100%. Do it, yeah.
Because if you don't do it, you'd have to do it tomorrow.
Exactly.
And then it would have been a day that you didn't do it. You know
I mean, TikTok specifically, that's only got some legs and some traction, say, in the past year or so. In the Central Belt and in our demographic, I would say. I know it's not a fair statement considering I'm a 37-year-old guy. I mean, we're not on TikTok and stuff, but the benefits and the application potential for business growth is definitely unrivaled across any other platform, any other free platform. And you look at something like Google Ads, where you're paying for clicks, something we've never did. We've never had to pay for Google Ads, but I do know a lot of companies that are doing it, and they're spending a fortune. And the marketing has changed. It's not a professional space anymore. It is a people space. It is a talk to me and get it out there. And it's TikTok's the best place for it. So I would.
And just the way people buy stuff has changed too. I mean, the traditional model on the sort of pay-per-click thing with Google. If you were a tradesperson, for example, you would speak with a specialist, and you'd say that, usually a third-party company, because you don't have the time to learn how to do it yourself because it's a minefield. And you'd pay them a shit ton of money, and they'd go and they say, right, who do you want to target? And it'd be like, okay, let's say you do windows and doors. Okay, right. So we're going to look for certain search terms, people searching, double glazing in your area. We lock it down to an area. People don't buy like that anymore. The only people you're going to get with that are old school, are people who, and the truth is, more search terms get put into things like YouTube and TikTok and Twitter than do in Google. So people are looking for for educational stuff first before they buy. So
Well,
that's the time to capture. Right.
Yeah.
So that's the time to actually get them, is when they want to know about something and like, how would I get this done? What's involved? How does it work? How much would it cost? And people aren't really doing that through Google, apart from maybe the older generation, which is good for some products. You know, maybe like conservatories, driveways, maybe bigger projects that involve a lot of money, where you probably want retired married couple with a few quid in the bank, maybe. But for younger, the younger professionals out there with a bit of money in the bank, young parents, young professionals who've got the money for like a kitchen renovation, for example, that's not where they're going for that. Not all of them anyway, some, but
not straight to websites.
Right. So your return on investment for that campaign is not as high.
No.
You're spending a lot of money where you can just put a couple of posts a week on TikTok.
But this is the funny thing, right? So like, even without spending money, and you're going for organic reach, right? And by what we just said there, the place is saturated. TikTok is a minefield. It is saturated, and everybody's got the same platform to shout about. Hence why I chose not to go down a personal brand. I chose to stick to what we're doing. There's so many shouting about how they're the best, when somebody is about to inquire or book or find out more, they still come back to the, you know what I mean? They need to go back to the staple. They need to go back to who has got the best reputation, where they find it, right?
And what's the quality of the work?
Yes, right. So I mean, you could be the best salesman and the best marketer there is. It is just a platform to bring eyes to your service, and see if your service isn't up to scratch. You don't deserve the work. Just because you can sell it doesn't mean to say you deserve to get it.
Right. That's a really interesting point as well about personal brands, because I've always been really torn over the idea of personal brand being pushed as like this main way of building a business. I've done it over the years, accidentally, almost out of necessity. But I have done it very begrudgingly, because there's one thing about, especially about certain type, like for me, it kind of makes sense. The service I provide it, and only I provide it. So that kind of makes sense. Fine. And I don't sell a product. I sell a service that I literally provide one-on-one with people. Okay, fine. But if I ever want to grow that business where I employ other people to provide that same service or a similar service, I'm then a bit fucked.
Of course,
it's going to be difficult to you know what I mean? Because then it's going to be, well, who's this person showing up to my call?
If you've got 100 customers, are you getting to them all that day?
Right, exactly. So it creates the bottleneck. Which is why, obviously that's not going to be my model. That isn't my model and my only business, because if that wouldn't work. But that's exactly the problem, I think, with telling entrepreneurs that that's the way that they need to build a personal brand. That's the way they should build a business, is through personal brand. It only works to a point. I think it has its place in the tech startup industry purely on LinkedIn, primarily for building interest around investment. So building a network of investors. But when it comes to like customer facing, I think that's the wrong move.
Yeah.
Like you need to put the product or the service front and center, like you've done.
It's a great jump off point, and you'll get massive success right away. But if you've got nothing to back it up, if you've got no infrastructure, no track record, no reputation, it falls pretty quickly.
And plus, not everyone's likable. Like,
I'm not likable, Gregory. Honestly.
Well, I think you are, but if
I was a personal brand, my company would have sank because I'm too serious. I am.
Well, there you go. Right. So that's what I mean. Like, it's like, okay, maybe likable is the wrong word. Not everyone's entertaining. Like, not everyone's got that crazy high level where they can say crazy shit and get people engaged and, within the first like millisecond of a video and all that kind of stuff. Not everyone's got that. Like not everyone's an influencer or a content creator. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so for some people, what was it that fish and chip shop that went viral or something like that? Because the guy who owns it's just a fucking nutcase, and like there'll be videos of him just speaking to customers like a nutcase. Like that works. The guy's got charisma. He's a bit mental. That's made for social media. Yeah. Fine. But most business owners don't have that skill set, if you want to call it that. I don't know, to be on camera to promote their business or themselves that way. Yeah. Like it's a very specific kind of thing. And then really you're verging on becoming an influencer rather than promoting your business. Yeah. And so actually what you're probably encouraging people to, the reason why they're interacting with your content is because it's funny, as opposed to it's going to convert. So actually, you end up selling the wrong thing anyway.
Yeah.
To some extent, right? It's like the whole point. You got to stay focused on what the point of the marketing campaign is.
What's the point?
To get clicks, to get leads, whatever it is. And I think content for the sake of content can lead you down a very odd path otherwise, can't it?
Yep. Which, again, it was a conscious decision to keep it professional, keep it relevant, and hone it into what we do. We're never going to be market leaders in personal brand. It's not our niche. It's not our experience.
But you also fit very nicely into another part of a space online, which is this, I don't know what it's called exactly, but like satisfying content.
I love the videos,
yeah, you know what I mean? Like when
you see the two guys build the hut in the forest.
Yeah.
That's it. I can sit and watch that for hours, listen to the sounds and just
That's been exposed recently, though. Have you heard about that?
No, I've not, no.
I don't want to ruin it for you. No, I won't ruin it. I'll let you look into that. If it's the same one I'm thinking of, there's been a few of those. There's a few channels like that now. But anyway, they've been exposed. But I'll let you do your homework on that one if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, there's that. But I mean, even just trades work, like, you know, when you watch tradesmen do a job, like just simple things like watching like masters do like masticing.
Love it.
And they just, you know what I mean? Like just seeing that, someone doing one swipe, like that kind of stuff. There's a whole load of content of just satisfying TikToks. And it feels like you guys sit in that quite nicely because of you show a very nice finish of something.
We do all right that way. Especially in that space. There's guys that are in the same sector as us doing it a lot better than we are.
Right.
They've found that whether it's a format or a formula to make it work better for them or whatever else. But fair play to them. But again, I always bring it back to the point here. What am I doing it for? Am I doing it for popularity? I want to be popular.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I'm doing it to get my face out there so everybody knows my name. No.
Well, that's it. It kind of goes back to what I was saying. The risk is if you lean too heavily into that, then you're just getting people watching it because it's satisfying to watch.
Yeah.
And it's not actually targeting the market that you want to target, which is people who may be interested in purchasing and making.
I'm running a business.
Right.
And I'm trying to create business. And if it doesn't fit into that remit.
There's probably some crossover there, though, between those two groups of people. But yeah, you do need to make sure you straddle that line and keep it somewhat focused. But it's interesting.
Carried away. Easily carried away. The guys come in and they're so enthusiastic, and you do say so. You send out one of the marketers with the team, or you'll send them out with his own camera. Listen, go and grab me a wee bit of content. You're working on a really specific job, but it'd be a nice bit of content for you. But they get too caught up in it,
right?
And you go like that. Right, you've used a lot of your own time there.
Well, so they've come back and they've like shot a whole movie like Christopher Nolan. Like there's a beginning, middle, and an end. There's main characters and shit.
Now it's like now you're a producer. You know what I mean? Now you're an editor. I was like, you're supposed to be out there doing a job, making sure your customers happy and everything else, and it's enjoyable at the time, but it's easy to lose focus.
Yeah.
And you can bring on teams to help you with that and stuff, but I keep getting back to the fundamentals. That's how the boring aspect of my personality comes in, and the serious aspect is it's like we've got a job to do. And we're going to do it great. And I'm not jumping on every trend that hits my desk, but I'll definitely be part of it in some way.
You've got to explore it, yeah.
You have to, of course you do, because that's how you grow and open your mind to other possibilities and how to monetize those possibilities, because we're in business. And I'm fine exploring all that, but people get carried away too much. And especially, I mean, I can only reflect on my own sector, my own experiences. It's like, You've got industry standards, and then you've got people telling you what industry standards are. And like, what are you going to believe the textbook and the experience, or are you going to believe the guy that's shouting the loudest? And that's what you come up against a lot. It's like,
ideally, you want the guy who's had the most experience and also shouts the loudest. Like, that's ideally what you want. Yeah, for sure.
But listen, it took some convincing to even get down this route. And
oh, really? So you weren't that into it initially? Then who convinced you?
And listen, I watch your channel. I watch like-minded channels as well. I'm always watching and I always enjoy it, but I never seen myself as the type of person to be doing it and taking part in it. And the reason is because it is going the way of people buy off of people. And the more I grow, I need to be telling people why this is the way it is and how we've grown else to take it to. I mean, we're working on a lot of good stuff now. Top secret stuff, but we're working on good stuff, and part of that is a personal brand. To an extent, I'm not shoving it down anybody's throat, but
What?
I'll get
So
responsibility.
centered around you specifically.
Centered around the experience and the growth and the business itself.
A friendly reminder to share this episode with your network, like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the show and only takes a couple of minutes.
So yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that about that as an idea and approach, because there is, I think, a lot to be said for this sort of behind the scenes coverage from a content marketing perspective. I mean, it does have to come when you've got the resources and the time to do it. Like, there's no doubt about it. You need to be comfortable enough to put it in motion. But it kind of ties into what we were saying earlier about this problem with finding the right people and finding the right staff and finding the right growth, because it gives people, and also helps with sort of building up this trust element of like, okay, so here's the work, but what about the people behind it and delivering it? But then also it can become like an aspirational place for people to want to work. And I tell startups this all the time, going through that growth stage. If you can make, because there's kind of this general consensus that in the modern age, to run a business, you also need to be a media agency as well, right? To some degree. And it's like, once you get to the stage where you can grow that media agency out, make behind the scenes content, show the team having a laugh, show some of your meetings. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, let people know there's human beings behind it. It's a fucking great place to work, as long as it is, right? Obviously, the type of support you give people, like, why not? Like, because actually, consumers like that stuff just as much as potential future employees. They like to know they're buying from companies that look after them, their employees, and I don't know, buy sustainably, like all this kind of stuff.
The altruism that you're talking about. So that's the ethos in the company, right? I'll look after my staff as best I can. I'll take them nights out, I'll develop them, I'll train them, a part of their lives, their personal lives in a lot of ways. As soon as I publicise that, what am I? I'm a blagger.
Really?
Using a platform to showcase how nice I am and what I do for my guys and everything else. So,
but I suppose it depends how you do it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, have you changed microphone? Because your audio has really changed. It's gone off quality.
Potentially. There we go. 2 seconds. Is that us now? No.
That's better. Yeah, it had gone really weird. But yeah, I can see that. But I guess it depends. It depends how you do it. If you just write a post to say, I'm great because I look after myself. But the great thing about video content is it can just be kind of like a fly on the wall, just showing the stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't maybe need to come across as potentially as braggy, but you're always going to get people fucking, like we just said, you could literally so someone putting a plug socket and so people are going to argue about it. So like, if you want to do it, right? That's the thing. It's like, fuck them. And if anything, it's fine, because if it helps the algorithm, the more people that moan about stuff, the better, because it means more people see it.
That's it. And again, that goes back to the lawlessness in TikTok, and that it's actually promoting the negativity there. It's promoting confrontation. And people are more prone to doing that, and that's not really a position for a professional company that wants to grow. I'll give you a specific example there. I can't remember who we were talking about it, and the conversation came up with Halfords. Halfords has grown the brand and everything else, and have developed the growth, and Halfords itself has been unbelievable in the past year. A lot of ways that's shown now. They promoted themselves on TikTok, and it had the opposite effect for them. Because they couldn't engage in that personability, arguing back, promoting the algorithm. It had a negative effect for them, so they back off. And I know we the scaly Halfords, but that's where I see the vision be. That's it. I mean, we're a company, we're growing. I don't see stop anytime soon. Do I want to be involved in that negative marketing kind of element?
Right.
And that's been a big play in most of our conversations. And that's why I've chosen not to do it.
Maybe it comes down to the platform too, right? Yeah. The platform that you choose to put certain content out on. Like I said, I think like for example, the founders who I said about doing the personal brand stuff, that works on LinkedIn because it's expected on that platform. First of all, like everyone's quite supportive of personal brand there. Sorry, what was that?
People know how to behave on LinkedIn.
Yeah, well, for the most part. Yeah, for sure. But also, that's the audience, right? Everyone on there's got a personal brand. That's kind of the point, because all the profiles are personal profiles. So to an extent, right? And there is this kind of unwritten rule that everyone needs to be super professional and all that, which is a problem in of itself sometimes. It can make it a little bit boring. But but so maybe that's the kind of place where actually sharing that kind of content, behind the scenes stuff, works versus like your Facebooks and your TikToks, because then it's going to get more public scrutiny of just like, why are you shouting about this? We want to see the product. Like, you know, this is bullshit. I don't know. By the way, sorry, your mic is still a bit funny. Is that one? Is that on that one? Is that the one connected? I feel like that's the one that got disconnected or something.
Yeah, it might not be.
Yeah, maybe in the settings it changed or something. I don't know. Sorry, mate.
That's all right. I'll fix it.
It just, you sounded silky smooth like butter, and now it's all gone a bit funny.
Is that better?
That seems to
be. Tell me if that works.
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, that's much better. Sorted.
No,
but yeah,
it's the positioning, the brand, and going back to the personal brand aspect and why I've chose to go down this route. And it's not for lack of enjoying it or thinking that I don't need to be the guy doing that. It plays into my business model now. I've got a lot of things in the pipeline that is going to need somebody, and again, you can't replicate it, that is as knowledgeable, as passionate, has got as much experience, and you know what, fit to answer the questions that are going to be posed. And that is why I've chose to go down the route, and I've accepted my fate that I'm going to need to be more likable. I'm going to need to be more entertaining.
Well, you've agreed to do this. So, I mean, like, there you go.
It's enjoyable.
Right.
It's enjoyable. It is. I mean, having a conversation with a like-minded guy about something that I'm super interested in, why would you turn that down? But what's the point? What's the objective? From my point of view, like, what is the ultimate goal here? Does it fit into the plan? Hence why I'm doing it. But
so how does doing this fit into your strategy overall?
Like I said, I mean, it's progressed, it's manifested, and I mean, this is another platform to provide trust. I'm putting a face to the company now. It is not just word of mouth. It is not just recommendations. It's not even something like Trustpilot or Which or whatever it is. It is now a face to the name. There's a proven track record there. I'm the guy that done it. You know, like, and before I seen it as super braggy, and even saying the words out loud, you're like, do you hear yourself talking? And you're like, but it is like, if there is a person in this sector that is the most qualified to have an opinion, it is us. And you know what? It's like it's a long time not been said, but it's been said now, and this is a jump off point to that.
And that's something to be proud of. And like, I suppose, that's a good point. You can't control how people interpret things, right? So that's on them. It's not on you for putting it out there. It's on them for misinterpreting it if they do. But I can't see why anyone would. And also, like, you know, like we said, it depends on the channels. So at the end of the day, my account on TikTok, people follow that because they like that. That's the content solely that I put out. Is speaking about founders. Like, and then likewise on my LinkedIn, they won't be surprised to see me chat about this. People, my subscribers on YouTube, they follow it because they want to hear from founders. Like, so it's about being in the right place at the right time too, right? So it's appropriate for that environment. So that makes sense. But it's interesting that you've been so standoffish about it all this time, and now you're going into it.
Natural progression. Times change.
That's it. Yeah.
I feel like I just missed the curve on the technology side. I was never one to be sitting on my phone. I was never on Facebook. I was never on any socials. I wouldn't sit and go down rabbit holes on YouTube. I was out doing what I was doing, and you know what I mean. It just wasn't part of me and our group at the time. But I feel like I missed it with 6 months. You ever pinpoint a technology phase that just happened? So nothing came natural. It was all learned, and it needed to be explored for business growth. And this is just another element of it. And you notice patterns. It's definitely changed to a people. It's a people platform. Everybody's after people. They want to hear your story, and I find myself engrossed in it as well. And I don't know what your history of the business is. Obviously, when you're doing the advisors and you've obviously got your own experience and stuff like that. But what did you find that you looked into more? Did you look into companies more, or did you look into people more?
Yeah, people. Yeah, I mean, people. Yeah, because that's what makes businesses work in the first place, right? I mean, it's why, you know, in the world of the space of entrepreneurialism, we have those big name entrepreneurs that we look up to as inspiration, right? Whether it's inspiration from entrepreneurs or other people who just did great things in their field, accomplished great things, you know, whether it's a great physicist or a great musician or whatever, like. We look up to people who accomplish things more so than the entities themselves. You know, we don't sort of go, wow, you know, SpaceX is like, you know, I've got a poster of that on my wall. You know, no, it's like that with Elon Musk. Like that's the thing. It's like,
but it's a chicken and an egg.
It is, yeah, of course, because you don't get one without the other. Like, you know, I mean, some people do feel that way about certain brands, but that's a very difficult thing to achieve, you know, over time, and that's usually because the brand becomes almost worth more than the sum of its parts in a way, like Apple, for an example, or Elon Musk with Tesla. Like, you know, that they provide a cult following. I think with Tesla, it's a slight difference though, because I think those two things are very connected. People love Tesla because of Elon Musk, and Elon Musk because of Tesla. Those two things are very connected. Whereas I think Apple now, originally, it was because of Steve Jobs. Yeah. He brought that to what it was. But now it's almost its own identity, you know, as a brand. It's kind of got its own, people have their own feelings about that brand in a way, which is kind of hard to explore psychologically, I guess. Like that you know, you could dissect that for hours just alone, that idea. That's something that's very difficult to achieve.
I mean, it grew into that, but before it was never about it. It was like your reputation spoke leaps and bounds before the person.
Yeah. And that's what Steve Jobs accomplished with Apple over the years. Yeah.
The reputation, and then it turned into the person. But right now we're in an age, and I feel that everybody's got a platform. Anybody, like you said, anybody with a phone can jumpstart. And I wrote that down because that's a great way of putting it. You could jumpstart your career, your service in an instant, right? And you could sell yourself in an instant. And it's not difficult to do, because even if you invite opinion, like you said, it feeds the algorithm, it'll feed more views, and it'll just feed interactions. So you feel like you're successful. Successful in what?
Yeah.
What have you done?
Well, this is where a lot of influencers really struggle, because they struggle how to monetize their popularity or the attention, because attention is the currency, right? Attention is the thing that everyone's trying to get, right? Yep. Eyeballs, ears, just for, even if it's just for a second, like that's enough. But very few people know actually what to do with that attention once they've got it.
Yep.
And that's the problem. And I think, you know, attention, just getting people's attention for the sake of getting people's attention is problem. Like, it's a huge problem. And especially with the rise of things like TikTok and so on, that's all people seem to do. And then they're like, okay, brilliant, I've got 1 million followers. Now what the fuck do I do? Like, I still can't pay my bills. You know,
because you lose focus. It's like now the business isn't about creating an awareness. It's not creating a personal brand could do what you originally set out to do. Now it's just to be heard.
Right. Well, I mean, that's just people, you know, seeking fame for the sake of seeking fame, right? You know, which is a whole problem. But it's something that, I mean, I think a lot of kids go through as well. Like, if you're thinking of young people specifically, which let's face it is mostly. I mean, a lot of people feel the desire to be famous because it comes from that sort of young, angsty period, you know, where you're full of anxiety, of just feeling like no one can see you. And so, I mean, that's kind of the natural reaction to it, right? Especially if you're seeing on your phone all day, every day, people getting millions of likes and follows. It's like, I want that. I want to feel liked and, you know, loved and all of that. And of course, the reality of the situation is very different. It's like, well, there's actually a lot more to it than that. You know, I'm on record as saying, even in the last episode, and in fact, some other episodes, I was saying that I think the influencers of today should be doing a lot more to sort of give out information about entrepreneurialism. Because successful influencers right now are great business people. Like, you can talk shit as much as you like about the likes of Logan Paul or the Sidemen crew or any of these kinds of people. You like them or love them, they are fucking great business people, and they're missing a trick, in my opinion, where they've got a young captive audience, and the only thing they're teaching them is act like an idiot on camera, you'll make money. There's a lot more to it than that. That's the product. But how do they monetize that?
How do you monetize it?
Talk about that. Not to say you should also act like an idiot, but like, learn these basic fundamental business skills, and you could run your own business, whatever that business might be. They're missing a trick, in my opinion.
No, definitely. It's another platform. That is their trade. Their trade is personal brand. Their trade is awareness and eyes and engagement.
Because the fucking schools aren't teaching it, so someone needs to.
It's another service. It's another service.
Well, it's like you said yourself. I mean, you learn your work ethic, and what you did about business through your grandfather initially. and then much of it was on your own, just doing it, right? And that, to me, that feels like a failure of our school system.
100%.
That there was someone entrepreneurial in their school, whatever school you went to, and no one picked up on that and helped make that happen sooner. That's a failure.
Another personal accolade is, even when you get out of school and you get into business, you're not appreciated. There's somebody, not even with the acumen of building yourself up, just with the drive to do something better that was not utilised. Somebody did not see the potential in the position I had, say, via Tesco, and didn't use me to the best of my ability, because like the school, you're just going through curriculum. You're there to do what you're there to do. You're a position. You know what I mean? And people could do a lot better to identify that.
In some ways, then school is doing the right job, in the sense they're training people to not think for themselves and be ambitious, because then that probably makes you most prepared for the workforce. Because if in the workforce you aren't, that, like you said, that isn't appreciated. So if you just conform, you go there, 9 to 5 and go home, that's all you're expected to do. That's probably, I mean, the school system, as we all know, is the curriculum and everything and the structure of it is based on wartime structure, right? It is specifically to prepare kids to go into factories, to work 9 to 5 jobs. And that hasn't changed. But I guess what people want from work has, and the school hasn't caught up with that.
No, not at all. And it is so fast paced now. The way things have just kind of developed since even when I was coming out of school, and then it's madness. It's so fast paced. You've got 18-year-olds that have got the ability to, like you say, via social channels and platforms, literally dwarf your business growth in weeks and months through opportunity. But through entrepreneurship at any age, if they can identify that and they use it, and we don't understand, it's our problem, right? They found a way to build a business, because that's what it is in themselves. But if they monetized it, they understand why they're doing it. And that's the thing you see, and it's saturated with all these faces and stories and individual pitches, and they're all doing it for what reason? I don't know. I have no idea.
But some of them are doing well though.
100%. Yep. But it's like you say, nobody's giving them any tuition on it. Nobody's directing them. You know what I mean? It's like,
and no one's warning them of the dangers of it too. I think that's another really important thing. Like, kind of going back to what I was saying about that Barber story. Like, there's a huge amount of benefit, I think, in just being like we'll help you. Like, do it. Like, identify this kid. You want to be an influencer. You want to be a gamer. You want to be whatever. Let's help you. Let's get in some mentors. Let's do this. But here's the truth. Is the actual truth from the people that have done it. Like, it takes a lot out of you. It has this effect on you. This is what it's going to do to your relationships. This is what it's going to do to your mental health and your sleep patterns and da-da-da. Like, that's the good stuff. That's the bad stuff. And then this is the good stuff. Yes, you could make a lot of money. You could have financial freedom. You could all this. But this is the truth, as opposed to just kind of going, not doing anything. Like, I feel like that's worse in some ways.
It's definitely worse. Inaction is worse than action.
Right.
Every time. But again, it's just it's awareness. You've seen some of these kids' profiles and stuff like that, and some of them are funny. Some of them are so funny, and they are bringing eyes to it, and you see it in your feeds, and you're scrolling through. But you read some of the comments, and it is abuse. It is unfiltered abuse.
And kids cannot handle that shit.
No, adults can't handle that.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? But that's what we've allowed to happen. Hence why I do stick by that. TikTok's lawless.
Well, you see, and this is why I'm curious about it, because like a great example is my son. So I've got an eldest son as well. He's 9, and there was a careers day recently at school, and we were talking. He was like, "What do you want to do?" And he's really interested in computer games, as all fucking boys are at this age. And his instinct was to say, "Oh, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a YouTuber." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "That's interesting." I've got him a PC. He does like a bit of coding and like game development and stuff like that. So I've taught him that. I was like, "Well, why do you want to be a YouTuber? I thought you like game development." And he's like, "Oh, but is that not the same thing?" I'm like, "No." So we sat down, I explained the differences and the jobs, and how there's loads of jobs in game development. There's literally thousands of different types. But for a YouTuber, it's just that. And it's very, very difficult to do. And then after a while, I went, "No, I think game developer makes more sense." I'm like, "Right." Because I actually took the time to have that conversation with him.
Yeah.
In schools, they're not. They're just like, "What do you want to be?" "Okay, you want to be an influencer." "Right, fine. No one's sitting down to tell them the realities of it, because I guarantee you, if someone had, let's say, gone to some of these big influencers of the day now, like TikTok influencers, YouTube influencers, whatever, and said, if you could go back in time and do it differently, would you? Most of them would say yes. Yep. Most of them would probably say, I would have applied that entrepreneurial spirit to building a business that wasn't centered around my own fame. I guarantee you most of them would have said that, probably because the cost benefit analysis was off, right? Yep. You know, they probably said, I didn't need to put myself in that vulnerable position. I could have built a business probably without the fame and been just as successful, if not more successful, probably. But they had no one to guide them.
No, nobody to guide them, and it's too easy to access as well.
Right.
It's far too easy to access because there is no roadblock in place there to police that. So if anybody with a phone can make a video, anybody with a video can post a video, and it's as simple as that. I don't know. I mean, maybe it'd be a good thought for you to explore as well. You talk to CEOs day in, day out. You talk to business owners with different levels of experience, years. No, it doesn't matter. If you've found a niche or they're doing something that's been done to death, they've found a different way to market. What would happen if you took on a wee 17-year-old just out of school that wanted to be an influencer? What do you think they would say? Like, what's in their head? I have no idea what's in their head. But it's not, nobody's protecting them. You know what I mean? Like you just say. And it's in their head, they want to start a business.
You know, it's funny you mention that, because I have been thinking over the last few months, like, is there room for me to do advisory work in that space? But of course, again, it kind of comes down to this altruistic approach versus, well, what makes business sense? Like, I can't justify that from a business perspective, spending time. I mean, I do some pro bono. I do a lot of pro bono work to try and give back as much as I can.
Yeah.
But that's usually with the goal of like, okay, well, it will probably eventually might turn into something, word of mouth, whatever. With that, it's a lot more tricky. Like I just don't have the time. Maybe if I get to a point where I have some more time, I could say, okay, well, maybe I can put myself out there to those that want to be influencers, content creators or something, and help them with the more business side of it. Like, maybe, you know, how to wrangle that entrepreneurialism or something, maybe. But then, I don't know, it's tricky because of a lot of the consultative work I do is like, well, we sit down and we talk about the product or service and go, right, what are the values of it? How can we sell it? What can we do to improve it? How can we build a strategy around it? Yeah. When it's just a person, I don't really know how to do that. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you're a bit funny, or I don't know, you're a bit pretty. Like, you know, that isn't my wheelhouse. You know, I think there are probably other professionals out there who know that space better, but I would probably argue most of them are predatory. Probably.
True.
Do you know what I mean?
True, yeah.
Like, because it's always going to be contingent on, if you're successful, I want a piece of the pie.
That's
like,
it. Which is another reason why somebody should definitely fill that space, whether it's at school or I don't know, before they go into jobs. It should definitely be highlighted because these guys have no experience. You know what I mean? At least we have to tick a lot of boxes before we get public attention, or you know what I mean? It becomes serious. But these guys are picking up a phone and they're exposed to that instantly, instantly exposed.
I mean, schools could kind of have their cake and eat it as well, potentially. Like, you know, you see in universities, for example, when they teach kind of business and economics courses, some of them will do like these incubator programs where if they've got students who've got good business ideas, that the university will invest some money in those ideas to help them get going. They'll help with external funding and all that, and they'll own a piece of the company. You know, similar to like what scientific institutions do, where if researchers or students, you know, make a discovery, they own a piece of that discovery or a new drug or whatever. Like, there might be something that secondary schools, because the age now is younger for entrepreneurial interests, that if secondary schools were to create some sort of similar program, the schools could solve the problem of the fucking lack of funding that they've got too. By maybe being the sort of places to help spark these ideas and bring them on board. But they just need to get their shit together and make it part of the curriculum. Where business and economics is being taught in a way that's interesting for one and consistent for another. There's probably something that can be done there.
I totally agree with you. The education system, and again, I'm just about to have my first child, and she's actually due in 2 weeks.
Oh, really? Oh, congratulations!
Thanks. And already, I'm considering this. Like, what is the education program? Because the horror stories I'm hearing at schools that I don't really feel like getting into because it'll set me off. Is the kind of the content of the educational kind of days that these guys are exposed to, and you're like, no, that is not how I would like my kid educated. What is going to be more relevant to their life experience? It's like, well, business for one, like how to monetize, how to do this, how to do that. Experiences, like kind of promoting every day without being too specific or generic, which is a problem as well. It's like you don't want the factory mindset either. You do want to open these guys up to what's out there, but you don't want to make it airy-fairy that they can pick up a phone and they feel like they're a business owner in 2 seconds, or you know what I mean, with no experience, and that is the scale.
We just need to teach resilience, resilience, and the openness to learn. Like that's what it is. Like to take risk and realize that the more you put yourself in a situation that you're uncomfortable with, the more you'll learn from it, and that's okay. Like it's okay to be in uncomfortable situations as long as you're like looking at them to learn. I think that's all we can do as parents ultimately, because if you know the schools can't. I mean, let's face it, it's not the whole responsibility of the school to do everything for us, right? No. But they are missing some stuff. But if they're not going to do it, the way I see it, okay, that's up to me then. I'm going to have to teach my children a lot of this stuff. That's fine. That's part of my responsibility. It would be great if I had the support of the school too.
100%.
But it's not going to happen.
8 hours versus 3 hours a night in a weekend.
Yeah, exactly. But it's tricky because obviously it all moves so slowly in that world. And like we said, the age now for where kids are interested in this stuff has gone so young.
12, 13.
You know, right. That's when they're thinking.
You shouldn't even have a phone.
Yeah, exactly. And yet they're really interested in all these ideas. That's when we should be intervening. Whereas traditionally it was like 18, 19, A-level, university, college. That's why the topics are available to be taught then. We should be making them available in GCSE. Entrepreneurship should be a GCSE for sure. 100%. Like, you know, business, economics, all that sort of stuff, like 100%. But I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I guess we should run for Prime Minister. I mean, that's the only solution.
That's the only exact change.
That's the only thing. You know, we should drop what we're doing and focus on that. Clearly, we know what we're talking about.
You can only look after your own, though. So your own business and your own family. That's pretty much what you've got control over in some degree. So,
but and then do whatever you can. I think when once we're comfortable, do what we can to give back to the wider community, whether it's in our own industry like you're doing or beyond. And I think we're both on the same page of that too, that we should do whatever we can to support the industry around us and help others succeed. That's all we can do. But we still need to focus on home first, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
in fact.
Yeah. Well, listen, dude, it's been great speaking with you. We're at that time already. That has flown by. Before I let you go, is there anywhere? I mean, obviously we've talked about some of your socials and stuff like that.
Yep.
Is there anywhere you want to direct people to? I mean, I'll put the links in the description. Where should people go to check you out, to check Rapco out, etc.?
Honestly, Rapco is doing all right. So I would probably more direct people to the sector itself. If anybody is listening and they're thinking about renovation, I'm an advocate. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Save your money, upcycle in any way that you can. And wrapping is a fantastic way to do that. 80% versus replacement in residential and commercial application. It's there to save you money. And if somebody's doing it right, then brilliant. But it's a growing industry, so keep watching.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think everyone, myself included, are going to be watching what you're doing very closely because of all the stuff you were talking about, the plans for the growth of the business and these other areas you could branch into. Really interesting. And I know I'm interested just to, from my own reasons, just curious to see how you continue to take this into different directions and so on. So it's cool. It's fascinating. So, I always put in the description the website of the company and the LinkedIn profile so people can follow you if they want to follow along with the journey, if that's okay with you. And all that's left to say is we should wrap it up. Hey, another one. I wanted to say that. I had made a note before this to make sure I said that at the end. Fucking, I might edit that out. That was cringe. But yeah, but thanks again, mate. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. And,
cheers for inviting me on. It's been great.
Putting the world to rights. You know what I mean?
Nice one, Greg. I appreciate it.
We'll do this again soon. Yeah, keep in touch and keep me posted on stuff.
I look forward to seeing the next episode as well. So we're good.
Nice one, mate. Cool. Cheers. All right. Have a great week. See you soon.
Bye now.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you for listening and/or watching. Please like and subscribe and join in the conversation in the comments below.